It's time for the Volquest podcast, where we dissect the biggest news items of the week.
Good Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to the Volquest.com podcast, presented by our good friends at Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products and organic remedies. At Smoky Mountain Organics, 4 locations for you: Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and of course their location in Knoxville, just down from Westtown Mall, across from Trader Joe's there on Kingston Pike. You can always visit them online at SmokyMountainOrganics.com. That's Smoky Mountain Organics, with Rob Lewis and Austin Price and Brett Hubbs. Glad to have you along with us. A few odds and ends to get to here on this Tuesday edition of the podcast, as Tennessee has wrapped up spring practice. They're on the road, getting ready to be on the road doing some recruiting. Josh Heupel's going to be on the road kissing babies on the Big Orange Caravan. We've got basketball out there in the transfer market, and we've got baseball being baseball. And let's start with a little bit of baseball. You guys were in the ballpark over the weekend. Pretty intense series between Tennessee and Alabama. What's your takeaway from Tony Vitello and the 4-game suspension, and just kind of how all that went down in seeing that happen?
I think that until referees, umpires, or officials are held to the same standard that coaches and players are, you know, you're going to continue to see these from time to time. Tony was in the wrong. He shouldn't have bumped him. Now, the guy, you know, it looked like Dennis Rodman, you know, getting hit by Karl Malone, where he flopped around the air and acted like he was eviscerated. But, you know, I mean, Tony shouldn't have bumped him. You know, 4 games, he'll be back. Sadly for Tony, he don't just get to stay home. He gets to go sit in a hotel in Gainesville next weekend and wait till Sunday gets here. But they'll be fine. You know, the biggest news is Dolander, you know, just having a deep bone bruise. So now it's just kind of a waiting game. Is he out a week? Is he out 2 weeks? Is he back by this weekend? A lot of ice and recovery and that type of thing. That's huge, in my opinion, just because, you know, you have that natural, like, built-in guy ready to step in, you know, in Blade Tidwell. But, you know, now you don't necessarily have to do that long-term. You still have a really nice 4-man rotation.
Hubbard, I tell you who I felt sorry for, but just speaking from personal experience, was who I felt the most sorry for were the 35 to 55-year-old female crowd in attendance at Friday night's game. I know I had a guest with me who was heartbroken.
That Tony was
thrown out.
That Tony didn't make it.
Tony was gone. There was going to be no chance to catch a glimpse of him, you know, walking out to change pictures. So, you know, that's the real tragedy.
Attendance dropped by 20% for the midweek game.
I will say this, and we'll get back to a couple of bigger picture baseball things. The Dolander news is significant, as you mentioned, Austin, because you got Chase Burns, who's in a situation where he's not performed well the last 2 Friday nights. So you were kind of already thinking Friday night after that loss, not just because he lost, but he hadn't pitched well the last couple of weeks. Maybe Tidwell's going to take that spot. Then you got Dolander on Saturday. Then you got Drew Beam on Sunday, and you're really seamless there in your rotation, and you're bringing in an all-conference type pitcher as a new guy in on Friday. Now you may get to do that at some point if you feel like you need to, because Chase Burns' fastball's not doing what it was doing earlier in the year. And where is he at? In the meantime, you can just slide Tidwell into the Saturday rotation until Dolander's back, and then you can go from there. But long-term for Tennessee, if Dolander's going to pitch again this year, and it sounds like he will with the bone bruise, then that's going to be a huge benefit for Tennessee in postseason play. I think, aside from the injuries, I think this weekend was exactly what Tennessee needed. They lost on Friday night. They got hacked off about it. Their head coach was hacked off about it Saturday morning or Saturday night, gets thrown out. You're right, they'll survive the suspension. I think this is the middle of the season reset that this baseball team needed. Not that they've been bad, but Rob, I think you need something to kind of grab your attention and reset the things a little bit. I thought Tennessee reset on Sunday. I thought they were, you know, obviously more aggressive. I thought they were much better Sunday than they were Friday or Saturday, even though they found a way to win that game Saturday night. I just think it's a good reset for Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly and counterintuitive to say, "Oh man, you need to lose one," but I mean, I think in a season as long as college baseball, I mean, I really, I mean, again, it sounds silly, but I really think you kind of do, to just like you said, to look in the mirror. I mean, I, I, I know a million coaches have said it, but I always think of Coach Fulmer saying it. Things aren't as bad as they're never as bad as you think they are. They're never as good as you think they are. It's somewhere in the middle, and I think it was good for Tennessee to kind of get punched in the mouth, not just on Friday night, but against Tennessee Tech as well. I mean, I know that was a weird game at Smoky Stadium, wood bats, but I mean, I just feel like I mean, I think you said it best, Robert. I mean, I think it was good for them to hit reset, kind of basically at not technically the middle of the year, but pretty close, midway through the season. I mean, I think it was you lose one game, you're so far ahead in the division, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think it was really beneficial.
It's interesting in that you see Arkansas post game talking about Tennessee and the LSU deal, about how they're looking forward to taking on. I mean, Tennessee's in this conference's head pretty good right now, and a lot of teams in this conference they're on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and they're not liked by a lot of people. This baseball team seems to enjoy that. You think everybody else surrounding Tennessee likes the fact that Tennessee's the villain?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that Tennessee plays way better as an athletics program when they get doubted, when they feel like they're wronged. The fans. It's somebody said this out on the porch on Saturday. Sometimes the Tennessee fan base just needs to kind of be wronged early, and then all of a sudden they come alive, which is the worst thing that can happen for opposing teams, especially for any Tennessee athletic event home game. It was rowdy on Saturday, rowdy on Sunday. Now the game kind of got out of hand on Sunday, so it was a different kind of rowdy. But there, when it was, they pulled it to 3-2 on Saturday, it kind of got a little, tense in there, and then home run, it was back 5-2 and they pulled away. But, I think that Tennessee embraces the villain role. I think the players on this team embrace the villain role. I think Tony loves it. And, I think that, when you can embrace being the bad guy, it's a lot easier to play that role.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this program as a whole through the years has been better when there's a chip on their shoulder. I mean, they find something to be agitated about. I mean, Josh Heupel's got a little of that right now, and nobody really cares. But what was it? The ESPN, one of those preseason things came out. There were 9 SEC teams listed in the top 25. Tennessee,
yeah, but that thing's a joke. That FPI. I mean, I agree. It's perfect for Josh Heupel. It's perfect for Josh Heupel.
This is the same place that found some kind of bulletin board material from Desean Jackson for the Cal game in 2006, where all he said was he wasn't sure how, like he didn't say anything bad about Tennessee, and they plastered a quote and sort of manipulated that thing all over the locker room for months. I mean, wow. Every coach uses everything that they can get.
Are you saying Tennessee Athletics is that high school coach that takes a big bed sheet and goes up there and tapes it up to the stands from the opposing team and says, "You see what they did to you? No. You see what they did to you guys?" And they get fired up. And
just since you mentioned him, here's a blast from the past. It shows how old both of us are, but also what a great athlete Desean Jackson is. I covered him in the U.S. Army All-American game, and Adam Myers-White guarded him. And that dude is still playing in the NFL.
And Adam Myers-White's a doctor somewhere, I think, at this point. Desean Jackson's still playing.
Still playing.
Yeah, heck of an athlete. Did not have a good go of things when he came to Knoxville. But anyway.
But he did a year later when he took that punt back in Berkeley.
Yes, he did. It made everybody in orange miss, or everybody in a road uniform miss for sure. So let's go back to baseball real quick, because they're going to hit the Big Orange Caravan scene tonight in Chattanooga, and they're going to have multiple talking points. We'll get to that for a second. But I think one of the questions Danny White's going to be asked is about renovations to Lindsay Nelson Stadium. Okay, you guys have been there, sat out in the porches, watched games. I've been out there as well. They got $57 million for baseball renovations. Okay. If you're talking to Danny White, and we had this thread on the board, but you guys have been out there as a fan experience. What do you want to see spent? How do you want $57 million? And I know a lot of that's going to stuff we'll never see. What do you think you would like to see from the amenities of that stadium? How big should it be? What do you think they got to look at in making that thing an even better home field advantage, and obviously a much nicer facility?
I think a roof for the porches is something that would be really good. Just because, I mean, when you get cold days, when you get wet days, like you can kind of keep the heat in or keep the rain off of you. You know, I mean, those things are, to me, the best value in Tennessee athletics for the number of tickets you get, for what it costs, for the number of games they have. Just a really neat experience out there.
AP can take his own steak. However, they have grills. AP can take his own meat. You don't have to worry about concessions.
This is true. And just take my own fillets. You know,
I mean, how big do you think it should be?
How big would it be? I think they should extend it down the right field line, and I would like to see it, you know, wrapped around. Extend it down the left field line, and you know, there's nothing behind right field line. I would like to see, you know, bleachers, you know, not huge, but a couple of thousand.
I say no more than 6,000 fans
going down right and going down left, just to make it look like a little more of a grown-up baseball facility. I honestly, I mean, I'm with AP. I mean, if you want to put some roofs over the porches, but having been out there, knowing a bunch of people, having a bunch of buddies that's how they go to games, I honestly wouldn't touch that. I mean, you know, you could make it nicer and it's aluminum, but I think the people that's their thing, they love the porches. I mean, the atmosphere, the ambiance. I mean,
I mean, what I'm saying is making it better for those people by putting a roof.
No, I agree with that. But as far as like making it something permanent, you know, brick, concrete, you know, making it a more traditional, you know, just bleacher baseball seating, I would keep it like it is. I mean, maybe you do something to spiff it up a little bit, but the ambiance out there is pretty nice.
So you agree 6,000? Would you go any bigger than that?
Being there and just knowing people in the community and how much juice they have right now, I mean, I think you might be able to go a little bigger. I mean, I don't think 10 or 12, but I think that's insane. But
I'm at 6. I'm with AP. I think that you need to have. I think it always needs to be a tough ticket.
It's a tough ticket right now,
right? And I think that's what you need to have. I think part of the problem that you have with these facilities is that they're just too big. I mean,
don't think 8's too big.
I mean, you got a new downtown ballpark coming down there as well. We have a lot of baseball. I mean, I could see somewhere between 6 and 7. I don't know that I would go all the way to 8. I really don't. But we'll see. I mean, it's obviously got to be nicer and it's got to be improved. But that'll be something that Danny White's going to be asked about.
I think just the facade. I think the facade, especially, you know, back there, you know, where the press box is got to be improved. You know, I just think you want it. First of all, you know, they need to get an elevator and put it in. So, you know, if you have any handicapped media, they can go to the press box. They currently have never had that. And somehow that's not been an issue, which blows my mind. You know, but I mean, like little things like that are to me are important up pieces. I mean, look at Neyland. I mean, like Neyland is a really old stadium. I mean, let's face it, a lot of it is, you know, decaying in certain ways. But yet when they went out there and they put the brick around the facade and stuff, it just gave it a better look, gave it a cleaner look.
No question. Yeah.
I mean, I think you can do a cleaner look and it not pay that much more money to make it look clean. And then just, you know, improve the fan experience. I mean, I think what they do, the little things like, you know, where the kids run the bases on Sunday after the third game is really neat. You know, my kids love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're very fan friendly there at the park, and I know that that'll be something that is talked about with Danny White at the Big Orange Caravan starting tonight in Chattanooga. What do you think the talking points are going to be out of the Tennessee camp for the Big Orange Caravan? Is there an overriding message out there, or is it just going to be continual?
I mean, don't you think things are pretty dang great right now in every sport that people care about? I mean, just one football finally seems like it's in a good spot. I mean,
again, what you just said, Rob, football, but it's the three main sports.
I mean, if you like women's basketball, throw that one in there.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time since in basically 20 years, Tennessee's going to make a bowl game, go to the NCAA tournament in baseball and basketball.
Yep, and in women's, of course, they always go in women's basketball. So this is a victory lap. You think this is a victory tour?
Don't you think so? I think that's a good way of putting it, Harper.
It is, but I think for Danny, he's got to address the Tony Vitello, stadium renovations, that type of stuff, and then just continue to be visible. Again, I think that's as important as anything, for these fans is, feeling like that, some of these coaches and administrators are one of them. He's one of us, being out there, being amongst everyone. I think that's super important.
And of course, they're going to be asking for donations and money, and then there's going to be some NIL talk, I'm sure, that some people will have with some questions as well. So Big Orange Caravan gets kicked off tonight in Chattanooga as they go this week and next week with 5 stops, I believe it is, on the Big Orange Caravan as they hit Chattanooga, Tri-Cities, Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta on this caravan stop. Bouncing around here, a couple other quick things here. We'll hit into recruiting in just a second. We'll hit into a little bit of hoops. Spring games are in the books, I think, pretty much around the league. I guess Mississippi State's still going to do a scrimmage next week. I know you mentioned that power poll was a joke and all those early things are, but who are you buying coming out of the spring in the SEC? Who are you buying, who are you not buying?
I mean, Bama, and then
okay, Bama and Georgia are givens, right? All right, everybody's buying
how much
those.
Did Georgia lose? I mean, you keep looking at these mock drafts. I told you this the other day, Hummer. I see guys from Georgia going like in the 3rd round that I don't even remember seeing on the 2 team. Right in the matchup piece. I'm like, who is this cat? They're losing a ton. I mean, I know Kirby's been stacking top 5 recruiting classes on top of one another for 4 years, but did they not take a step back? They lose both those running backs.
They do defensively.
Offensively, they lose a lot of skill.
They lost Burton, Pickens,
White,
running backs.
The other running back, Cook.
The thing is like the East is not very, to me, it's just, okay. In the West, who do they play? They play Auburn every year. They're down in the lame duck year. Who's their other West opponent? I've not looked at their schedule. Point is they're still set up to be right there in Atlanta. Again, that's why I continue to say, and all these, old school Vol fans can, tweet at me and talk to me on the board about it.
AP, don't say it. Don't say it, AP.
That Alabama game kills Tennessee.
Oh!
Hey, man, I love the tradition as much as anybody. Love it. You won't find anybody in here that loves tradition and nostalgia and all that more than me, period. But like when you factor in that, as long as Nick's there, Tennessee hadn't won since 2006, you're looking at a guaranteed loss every year. So if you run the table, against Georgia and Florida, which, only Butch could do this, but I mean, like it makes things really, really hard for Tennessee. Look at, look at what Georgia goes through. Look at what Florida goes through. LSU has their kind of comes and goes. Auburn has their comes and goes. Alabama's always there. They don't get that game. So again, I get it. I love the 3rd Saturday in October as much as anybody, but when you look at Tennessee trying to get to Atlanta, they almost have to be flawless to get there as long as Alabama's on the schedule with Nick Saban and Tuscaloosa.
Georgia, by the way, gets Auburn and Mississippi State out of the West. Tennessee gets LSU and Alabama.
There you go.
Yeah, you would straight up trade that each and every week. So we'll see what happens with expansion and pods or whatever they're going to do. How will they disrupt some rivalries in those games, and what will they do, moving forward there? Are you guys buying the South Carolina increase? There's a lot.
Well,
you got Spencer Rattler talking about how awful his life was at Oklahoma and how miserable that was, and
yeah, that comes across as sore loser to me.
You got
I'm not buying it.
You're not buying Carolina?
No.
I'm not buying Carolina. I am not buying what I am. I'll tell you what I am buying is that, that's more of a question mark game for me. It's in Columbia. what will he be like? Maybe he'll be the same turnover prone guy he was at Oklahoma, or maybe he's better. You don't know. Nobody knows. So, like, to me, that it's just more of a question mark. Instead of a lay down win, which Tennessee crushed them a year ago, more of a question mark. I think JT Daniels not going to Missouri and going to West Virginia, that was good for Tennessee. That makes that Missouri game way more winnable. I'm not buying that they're going to be some contender in the East. I know some guys, who just love Beamer. A lot of that's just Beamer knows how to work the media. So all of a sudden they just get this kind of faux hype going.
Rob?
I'm not buying it at all. I mean, it just based off last year. I mean, they were so bad. I mean, I'm not saying that they won't be better. I mean, I think they will be better, but I'm not remotely buying there's going to be this huge jump. I'll tell you the one I'm surprised about. I was looking, just breezing through like some preseason rankings. Pittsburgh. Did I look at something? I mean, they're like a borderline top 10 team.
Well, in the FPI, that's where everybody kind of got their panties on last week. That FPI is so ridiculous. Like teams that like lost, a mint and don't have that much returning are somehow in that top 25.
Well, I think
there was no Arkansas in the top 25. There was no Tennessee in the top 25. And when you look at, even go back to Jesse's rankings, quarterback rankings, Bryce Young, then the next two are the quarterback at Arkansas and the quarterback at Tennessee. Well, we all know it's a quarterback-driven game. So,
and speaking, I didn't realize that Pittsburgh got the USC transfer.
They did,
that quarterback Slovis. I mean, not that he's fantastic, but that obviously kind of eases the loss of Pickett a little bit.
Yeah,
but I that really caught me off guard that they were borderline. They're ranked in between 10th and 15th going into preseason.
Yeah, they lost quite a bit, but I mean the quarterback situation will help them there. They had a bunch of super seniors, so we'll see how they go. I don't think that's a lay down, but I don't think Pitt's going to be as talented as they were a year ago for sure. But the quarterback situation definitely helps them there. All right, AP, let's hit a couple of recruiting things here. Kyler Casper obviously goes to Oregon. He's reclassifying into the class of this year of 22. He's hopes to be there in August. Tennessee coaches are getting ready to hit the road in recruiting. Let's start with receivers.
Coaches are on the road recruiting today.
Yeah, on the Casper deal. I know you talked about it some in the chat. You talked about some on the board. Anything else there you feel like needs to be clarified, or is this just a situation where it just didn't work out with him in Tennessee and he's at Oregon and on to the next wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for Tennessee, it's a matter of, determining a kid's value versus what a kid's, or family thinks the kid's value is. And that can be, two totally different things. I still think you have to look at this like the NFL: offensive tackles, quarterbacks, edge pass rushers, corners. Then I would go receivers, are going to be more than, guards, linebackers, safeties even. When you look at the pecking order of, NIL opportunities, I just think there's more for tackles and quarterbacks and edge pass rushers than there are receivers. And so it's pretty as simple as that. I mean, I just don't feel like it's fair to get into that whole deal.
Sure.
I know everybody on the board just wants me to lay it out there, but again, sometimes just, the board and everybody just, it doesn't behoove anybody. Too many other targets on the board, for Tennessee to go get, including Carnell Tate, including, plenty of offensive linemen, edge pass rushers. So we'll see where things go.
Well, at receiver, outside of Carnell Tate, where do you see Tennessee potentially turning for long term? I mean, obviously they're trying to get Brew McCoy to come in and help this year if they could land the transfer there. But in terms of other receivers on the board, we got Carnell Tate. One would think Devin Hyatt has a chance to climb up Tennessee's board. Who else do you see there as they go out and do some spring evaluations at the receiver position?
Well, you have the kid from Virginia, Cameron. What's his last name? Escapes me. Starts with an S. then you have Nathan Laycock, who's out of North Carolina. You have Hyatt's definitely on there. But some of these kids, I mean, like a guy like Justin Brown, who I think Tennessee, liked a couple months ago. I think they'd love to see him come camp, see how he competes. I mean, he's not the tallest receiver, out there. So to me, I would liken his game more to like Bayless Jones, as far as like he's kind of stocky, more built, than he is like kind of a long strider, that type of thing. I think Tennessee would love to see him come camp. Same thing with, a couple of different guys. Cameron Seldon.
Yeah. Okay. Just quickly, where's Tennessee's priority on the road this week? I know we'll have more in the war room, but where's Tennessee kind of the priority for them there? And then I guess we need to talk about Trevor Duncan. What were your thoughts on Tennessee getting him as well?
Well, I thought, Tennessee and Trevor Duncan this early was huge. Again, a month ago, Trevor Duncan was talking about August and September, and then that just kind of morphed into, I'm ready to be done. Let's get it over with. Tennessee's the school. I'm never going to – I think it's great that Tennessee got Nathan Robinson and Trevor Duncan, two big boys. I mean, they're just big, and they're not sloppy. I mean, and really neither is Aiden Bustle. I mean, Aiden Bustle is kind of your prototypical offensive lineman. But like, there ain't a whole lot of fat on him either. There's no fat on Dunk. I mean, like, he's 275 hubs. You were there. He looks like he's 240. When he puts on 25 pounds against the 300, he's going to look like he's 260. Like, he's just ripped. So, getting guys with size, that to me, that's just a win. What were you asking me a second ago before that, though?
Where do you think they head? What are the priorities for them as they head out on the road? Is there a region? Is there a position? Or is this just are they working ahead for the next class?
I think they'll go trying to potentially go JUCOs this week. And then next week I think is when you'll see them, go see Rico Walker, go see Carnell Tate, go see, kind of their top end high school guys. Because next week's when a lot of spring practices start. Coaches want to go out and watch a practice, man. Sure. They do. I mean, if they they would much rather go see a spring practice and just kind of watch how a kid, works, watch how he moves, see the ankle stiffness or the whatever.
Ankle stiffness.
That's something all coaches.
I once had a coach, AP, you ever had one tell you? I once had a coach tell me they would not recruit a kid with fat ankles at a skill position.
I've had numerous coaches tell me that, such and such had poor bone density over the years. I'm like, how do you determine bone density? Do you smack them in the leg with a hammer? See the reflexes?
This assistant coach, this was at a practice, and then Dave Bradshaw, if you hear this, I love you. But what is it? There was a coach who did not recruit you, but coached you, then pointed at you and said, "You see Bradshaw's ankles? I wouldn't have recruited him."
Because Dane Bradshaw has big ankles.
Big ankles.
All right, Tennessee's on the road recruiting. We got full coverage of where they're at and where they're going to be at and who all is going on. You never know what's going to happen the remainder of this month as well on the recruiting front. Basketball-wise, Rob, as we wrap up here, getting ready to head out the door, everybody wants to know what this roster makeover is going to look like. I've said it. I've asked you. You've talked about it for nearly 2 weeks now. It just continues to feel like there's going to be an international flair here to fill out this roster. Is there anything you can kind of throw out on where Tennessee is in building the roster?
Well, they're getting Tyreek Key on campus this week, Indiana State transfer. Right. He's going to visit. I think that one is very realistic, kind of a combo guard. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's got a lot of options, but he's also an in-state kid from Salina. Was a really, really good high school player. Had a great career at Indiana State. We'll see what happens there. I expect Santiago to be back, but that would just be a real surprise to me if he, I don't think he's getting drafted by the NBA, but he would certainly have overseas options if you want to pursue that. But that one, just would really surprise me. Julian Phillips is out there on the high school front. I think that one is very realistic. I'm not saying that's not a lay down for Tennessee. They are in an absolute dogfight. Florida State's in there. G League is a possibility, but then everybody's trying to get in. Gonzaga's trying to get in. Duke's trying to get in. Right now, he's not visited any other places. If he does decide to take some of those visits, and obviously things get dicier. But if it's really just Tennessee and Florida State, I kind of like Tennessee's chances there with Phillips, and that would be a big time addition. Don't necessarily see any other high school additions. I mean, I wouldn't just completely rule it out. I mean, Tennessee's trying with a couple of guys, but they would have to get some of those guys to campus for a visit for me to think it's realistic.
Do you think the transfer, the rush of hoops transfers, guys going in the portal is slowing? Do you think that, or do you think there's another run yet?
There's going to be another run. You're going to see some of these guys who submitted their names to the draft.
Okay.
That really, I don't think had any attention to go to the draft, but wanted to get some feedback, want to see where they stand. I think you're going to see some of those guys once, they either go to the combine or just talk to some agents or something, pull their names out and then transfer. It's not going to be as much as there was, that first week after the season, but I think you're going to see another little run.
All right. We'll see where Tennessee's at with all these guys, who they can get on campus and what happens. We'll have that covered for you, obviously, all at Volquest.com. That's going to do it for this edition of the Volquest.com Tuesday podcast, presented by our good friends at Smoky Mountain Organics. For Austin Price and Rob Lewis, I'm Brett Hubbs. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.
You've been listening to the Volquest podcast every week here on Volquest.